At the beginning, everything was white. And then, in God's deepest dream, there was a spark of fertility. Pachamama was birthed in time and space. And the earth school, our home, was created. And the fertility goddess Pachamama opened her arms for our place to learn our lessons.
Hey, hey!
Welcome, Spiritual Mag. I'm Sam Bell. Today we are going to talk about something that just might happen to you because it happened to me. So it does happen. And I'll just call it the day I went to heaven, because this is the story, this is the true story, how it actually happened. And I'm just going to speak about the events immediately before, during, and after. So, September 21st, 1996, I am sitting in the office of Sylvia Celeste Brown, psychic, Associate Montel and Larry King. And I'm a minister in training in MIT. And Sylvia described that to me as a minister getting ready to go to a fight. And I'm answering phones, basically answering phones and running around trying to do office stuff. And I'm not really doing anything on the phones other than, desperate people are trying to talk to her now, and it's not going to happen. So I think it was a Friday or a Saturday, and just a busy day. And I'm there from before it opens till it closes every day, 7 days a week if I can. Basically 7 days a week. So I'm getting ready to go home, and one of the bishops comes in and says, Sam, you got to stay because Sylvia's going to bring through Rahim. Well, Sylvia's spirit guide is Francine, and Francine is constantly sharing information, additional information, to this very powerful psychic named Sylvia Brown. Rahim, I don't know who, I never heard of Rahim, never read about Rahim, don't know anything about Rahim. Well, I'm basically fried and hungry. So I'm getting ready to, hoof it out the door. She goes, no, you got to stop and see her channel Rahim. It's a big deal. So I'm like, okay, the bishop requested I do it, so it's got to be something pretty heavy. I don't know. So, okay, we're assembled in the back room. It's about the size of a small classroom. It's not the size of a full-size class, it's about the size of a small classroom. And about half the size of a regular classroom, elementary school classroom. And the chairs are set up, the tables are taken down because everybody's in jam, and she's got thousands of calls an hour because her shows are going around the world. And so it'd be Italy would be calling, and then, Germany would be calling, and Switzerland would be with Montel shows. So I'm the one setting up the chairs, and so front row on the right, I put my name on a chair. I'm going to be right up there in front, right? Okay, so I'm running around. Okay, everything's ready, blah, blah, blah. So everybody's in there. So I go on in, and somebody took my chair. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, because it's a pecking order. These ladies don't like me here because Sylvia really treated me special. So kind of stepped on a bunch of people's toes. It felt that way. So I'm in the very back on the right, alone in this, and I'm sitting there, and she hasn't come out yet. So I'm just sitting there, like, kind of like doing a little meditation and chilling. And it's like if something went like this, just like that, right? I'm sitting there and like, so I look behind me, there's nobody behind me. And the exit doors are closed. There's nobody coming in the exit doors. I thought, well, maybe I've been running around doing stuff. And sometimes you have a muscle that kind of does something weird after you exercise it a lot, or your leg or whatever. So then it happened again, just like this. Now I was tuned in when it hit the second time because I'm paying close attention because I'm like, where is it? Okay, so then Sylvia comes in. So she's escorted by her husband, Larry, and her personal secretary, Michael. So she doesn't look like the regular Sylvia. She's not acting like the regular Sylvia. She's not walking like the regular Sylvia. She's not breathing like the regular Sylvia. So she marches in, side door in the back, marches up to the front, and there's, I want to see, maybe 4 fans on the chair that she's going to sit in. There's 2 industrial fans, big old, not the kind you, just big old industrial fans blowing on the floor, blowing at her chair. And then there's some little chairs, some little fans, kind of go like this, down lower, keep her cool. Because I'm like, what's going on? So Sylvia sits down, and like if you picture in your mind a genie, how a genie would sit, they'd have their arms crossed and their legs crossed. Well, that's how Sylvia sat. And I never, it was like, whoa. And it was kind of like, it wasn't her body kind of like, it was some, so it was like, wow. And you could feel the energy. So they did me a big favor by not letting me sit in the front row, because if I sat in the front row, it would have blown me away. Way too much, it would have frightened me or something. But the energy was like, right? So he doesn't come very often, but he only comes for special occasions. Okay, that's the story. That's the story I'm told. So let me get a rip of coffee here. I want to get this straight. So Sylvia says, a correction, Rahim says that he'll answer one question from each minister. Okay. So that we're lined up. And so I'm like at the end, I'm one of the last ministers to ask a question. Not the exact end. And I ask, is there anything I can do to stop a nuclear test by the French off the coast of Tahiti, because it's causing ecological issues in my home country, New Zealand? At the time, I was a permanent resident of New Zealand. New Zealand is where Greenpeace came from, okay? So Greenpeace, with these save the ocean and the whales, seriously, motivated people to make things better. And they had this ship, and then some French gentlemen in scuba suits came in and sank the ship in this Auckland Harbor. So Kiwis don't like the French. All right, Kiwis don't like the French. So I said, is there anything you can do? I'm asking the question. So I'm like, it's my turn. Everybody's asking, do we need to repair my roof? Is my transmission going to go? Should I, date this man or whatever? And I ask, is there anything I can do to inhibit the French from testing, the French premier from testing a nuclear device off the coast of Tahiti, because it's causing, ecological issues in New Zealand, not only emotional, but, the actual stuff's happening, earthquakes and stuff. And Rahim responded, I will bring that petition to the Great White Brotherhood. So I'm like, who's the Great White Brotherhood? What's this about? Okay, all right. So I'm like, I'm not going to ask a second question. I'm just going to sit tight. So he goes to, Rahim answers some more questions for other people. Then he goes, the messengers come back from the Great White Brotherhood, and they said that the leader of France was concerned he wasn't getting reelected, so he wanted to demonstrate power by detonating another nuclear weapon to prove how powerful he is and how powerful France is, so that he get reelected. And that's his free will, and we cannot violate his free will. However, we can manage the planet and the earth. And what was going to happen is he was going to detonate the weapon, and then the volcano that Auckland is built upon, Auckland's built on a kind of like an old volcano, is going to erupt as a result of this French nuclear test that was planned to happen shortly. But because of this petition, the Great White Brotherhood is going to make earth changes, and so it won't injure anyone. So I'm sitting there like, it's dark. I don't know, it's probably like, almost 10:30 by this time. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I wonder if I should ask, where I can find money or something, Okay. So I'm totally fried. I get home, I go to bed. I get up, I need the toilet. So I get up, I go toilet. On the way back from walking back to the bed, I get this feeling. When you get a cramp in your calf, I get a lot of cramps in my calf. I mow lawns and do work outside. So, but when you get a cramp in your calf, you get this funny feeling just before it hits. Just before the cramp hits, you get this feeling, oh, I'm going to get a cramp, watch out. Well, I had that feeling in my upper body. Well, at that time, I was a licensed speech and language pathologist for over 20 years in California. And so I know symptoms like that, this doesn't sound good. So I go from slumbering to toileting, walking back. Now I'm alert. Like, what's going on, right? I sit on the bed, and then I turn and put my feet up on the bed under the covers. And as I'm beginning to lay down, so I'm up like this, as I'm beginning to lay down, on my right comes what I would describe as a Panzer German tank made out of thunderbolts and lightning only. And Army tank would have the tracks that go like this. Well, it had tracks that go like this, and tracks that go like this, and tracks that go like this. And the thunder and the dark clouds were bursting out and then getting sucked back in. And the lightning was bursting out and going back in. It was just a giant, I found out later, that's probably what's called a Merkaba. Okay, but at the time I'm like, what is it? What is it? So now this is outside of space and time, and I can see it and I can hear it and I can feel it, but it's outside, it's not in this dimension. And it's coming towards me. And it's kind of like if you were to take, a deck of cards and just go, and then one card just get a little peek, that's what it was like. But it was like, you can't handle more than just a peek at this thing. So that's as I'm laying down. Then as I get my shoulder blades under the bed, a light. Now the end shape was a point within a circle, So as my shoulder blades hit the bed, this side of the circle starts moving in this way. So it's this curved shape, right? It's moving in this way. At the same time, on this side over here, the same thing is happening, but it's like behind this one. So they're coming in like this. It's just two circles with a point in the middle. And when they get to the middle like that, they eclipse. And then I'm like, well, this isn't hurting, and I'm looking at it. And I'm watching the light come out of my chest. I'm like, holy mackerel. And it's going through the ceiling and through the roof and out into the eternity to the sky. Literally. Like a laser. And it's going into me to eternity, but it's not coming out my back. Okay? So when they eclipse, so it's a circle like this, and then there was a ring around it. And it was the color of kind of like a white marble that's a little bit smoky color, like smoke will get sometimes. And it was solid. And it felt like the entire thing, not in between the rings, not in between the rings where it was there, but just where the ring was and the circle, it felt like a 220 volt electric shock nonstop, and an orgasm, and the love that a mother has for her son, a newborn son. So it's kind of like, right? So at that point, I assume I went into the light. I assume I went into the light, but the next thing I know, I'm standing there and I'm toning down this story, trying to. I'm standing there and it's obvious I'm in heaven. Feels like heaven. Senses like heaven. You think it's heaven. You know, your connection is it's just like heaven, right? So I'm there and I'm like, must be heaven. This is heaven. This must be heaven. So I look to my left and there is a column of light and inside is a silhouette of a man. And nobody says his name's David. He doesn't say, hi, I'm David. All I know is that's David. That's all I know. And I don't know who the hell this David is. He's just somebody important. Okay. Over there, he's called David. So I'm like, oh. And he's elevated a little bit. The column is like about maybe 3 feet wide, 3 or 4 feet wide. And then there's a silhouette in there. So you can't really see him, but you can see the silhouette a little bit. So you can see the features a little bit. So I look at him and I go, am I in heaven? And he goes, so I'm like, now let me tell you, I've been working with traumatic injuries and all kinds of horrible things for people. So it's kind of like, there couldn't be a God. It's such a, the world is so messed up. The whole globe, it's just people fighting for greed, for control. It's like, so I look at him, I go, is this heaven? He goes like this. And I'm like, yes. And then I said, well, if this is heaven, there must be a God. He goes, because I'm thinking, well, how would God make all these people suffer? I've got people that are born deaf, blind, and get bartered out for sex purposes so the family can get crack and meth. It's like a lot of them like that. Earth's not too pretty. If you look and see what's happening. If you don't look and say, what's going on? I'm fine. I want a banana split. But that's not the reality. The reality, anyway. So I asked, is there a God? He goes, so I said, if there's a God, why would he make a Hitler? Why would divine source make a Hitler? Now, I've been to East Berlin and West Berlin when the wall was there. I've been in Ukraine, St. Petersburg, Moscow, Leningrad. I've been around a little bit, Switzerland more than a few times. Did a little bit of traveling, and you learn a lot, especially when you leave the media of the United States. You're not in a fishbowl of controlled thought forms. But when you travel, you go, oh, geez, really? That many Russians were killed by the Germans in Ukraine? How many million? First battle, 900,000? What? So I said, if there's a God, how would he make a Hitler? So then David goes, look over there. So I look over there. Wait a second. I start to look over there and I can feel the ground going boom, 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 boom. Feel the ground doing that. And then as my eyes looked straight ahead, I could see a column of marching Nazi soldiers. I don't know how many thousands. I don't know. It was probably maybe 20 wide, 20 or 30 wide, just a right? All in cadence, boom. Rifles and those helmets and big bayonets and K98 Mausers, right? So, like, ooh. Now, this isn't a mirage. This isn't an imagination. This is the real thing. And it is scary to see that many marching Nazis. I'm telling you, man. So I'm like, whoa, look at that. Whoa. So then I get all the way over to my right, and there's Hitler. Okay? He's in like a review stand. These stands that come down like this. And it's like about, maybe 50 people. And he's in the middle. And all around him are his, Nazi mucky mucks in their fine garb. Check them out. Shiny gloves, the leather, this shit hanging off them like crazy. And so when a group would march in front, like say, 100 soldiers, they would stop and then they would face Hitler and they'd go, "Hi, Hitler." And then continue marching. Then the next group would walk up and go, "Hi, Hitler." It was sickeningly weird. Okay, so they're going to Hi, Hitler. These are the marching guys. And so with all the guys in the review stand, they're going, "Hello." They're like totally over the top. Frighteningly totally over the top. And it's real. And Hitler's going like this. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? What's going on? Wow. I look at David, I'm really confused and frightened. Because this is not fake. This is real. Like all the Nazis that died being Nazis, they're still Nazis if they want to be on the other side. So the guys around Hitler are electric spastic when they're going Heil Hitler. And the guys that are marching, the goose stepping with the bayonets and stuff, they're like hardcore hypnotized. It's like, the religion is stuck in there and the society is stuck in there and the hatred for Jews is stuck in there, right? And they're in that. So now I'm incredibly confused. Okay. So I'm there like, oh. And so I get the feeling David's looking at me and I look at David and he goes, look over there again. So I look over, they're doing this, and Hitler going like this. Hitler floats straight up into the air, floats perfectly flat, head in the front, feet in the back, floats that way out over the marching Nazis. And he impales himself, he stabs himself on the marching bayonets. And, I've seen, videos of World War II and, stupid stuff that people do to other people. They get brainwashed. They want to go kill somebody they don't even know. But when you see it for real, right? So I felt like I was throwing up because just watch this guy come down to these bayonets. I said, roll bayonets, like 5 bayonets running around his head. All of these, they're watching away with them on it. So I'm sick and I'm frightened. And I look at David and David said, he said, Adolf's been doing that, this is telepathically. Adolf's been doing that to himself since he died. Non-stop. I'm like, oh. And then the terrible part started. You didn't think this part's not very nice. Then the terrible part started. The part that was worse than all of that 100 times. I hear this screaming. Voices maybe. Crying, wailing, weeping, men and women and children, screaming, Adolf, please stop. We forgive you. Adolf, please stop. We forgive you. And they were crying total torment of tears and agony. And now I'm like, I don't. And I look at David, and David explained it. He said, heaven is limitless. The love is limitless. The compassion is limitless. The patience is limitless because we're sparks of the divine. However, you have to be able to tolerate where you go on the other side. You have to feel comfortable with that amount of unconditional love energy. Unconditional limits of patience and compassion. So all of those Jews had to wait many, many generations so they could progress further into heaven. They're a very spiritual group. And for them to progress further into heaven, up closer to the divine source, to be able to tolerate that kind of love energy, they have to learn more compassion, more not judging, more patience. So it was meant to be that way. They came here with the purpose so they could learn more compassion and patience, and they dominated their chart with that plan, that when they incarnated, they wanted to go through what they went through. Because they already knew they were sparks of the divine. It's a big difference I can't describe, but I've been to heaven. I can't describe how nice it is. There's no words that can even begin to get close. There's nothing I can say about it. They can even get close to it, what it really is like. Okay. So the big picture is you're in heaven, you want to go further up into heaven. You have to chart some lessons that you are going to acquire knowledge about your experience. And some people come to Earth to learn it. It's like, this is a rough place. So when you come to Earth, you're here to learn some charted lessons that you charted, you demanded. Actually, when you get to the other side, they'll break out your record, go, see, here you are. You said you wanted to be one-legged person with 3 eyes and, whatever. Huh? What? At the time, it's hell. Pure hell at the time. But if you learn compassion for yourself and compassion for others, you move into places that are much nicer. And in hindsight, you'll say, it was well worth it. I'd do it again in a minute, but I'm going to stay here for a while. Or I go back and go to, postgraduate school. Okay. So, and then I don't remember getting back in my body. I don't remember what happened after that. All I know is I woke up in the morning, and I was a completely different person. My hearing was better. My vision was better. My attitude about everything changed. Everything. Now I'm sharing this because the planet right now is going through some kind of transition kind of stuff. There's black hats and white hats, good guys and bad guys, greedy people and not greedy people. Lots of them. And most of the people are not using AI or neuroscience or neuromarketing. Most people aren't using it. Everyone is exposed to it, though. You might not even know it exists, but you're exposed to it. So at the moment, loving beings from other dimensions, some are even avatars that work with Divine Source, are here to help Earth pilgrims, people like yourself. Anyone that holds unconditional love in their heart and intentions, you're the one who's going to make things happen, because it's not going to be the government, it's not going to be the state, it's not going to be the county, it's not going to be your local law enforcement. You want to keep your community together in what's coming up. What you need to do is start elevating your consciousness. And then what will happen is these off-planet family of ours that are trying to help us but can't violate our free will are getting shot at. Hello? Or at least people are trying to knock them out of the sky. So the cardinal rule for off-planet extraterrestrials and on-planet ultra-terrestrials and avatars is don't frighten the natives. You'll scare the crap out of them. For example, Jesus. When Jesus was there, he scared the hell out of the guy who crucified him. They didn't do anything. Okay, so everything changed. And I started having a better and better rapport with my guardian angel, Daisy. And that's what I've been doing. So off-planet beings can be mistaken for avatars, and the avatars don't want to be mistaken for gods. Okay? So basically, anybody that's around here now that's not in a physical vehicle in a body is a pretty loving person. There's a few scattered dark hats, ghosts and such. But for the most part, you and all your loved ones are loved by Divine Mother God and Divine Father God. You're their children. You really, really are. With your free will, you can't find it, you can't x-ray it, you can't cut it. Your ability to focus, you can't find it, you can't cut it, can't x-ray it. And your unconditional love. Those are the things you're feeling now. And when you pass on, those are the things you take with you to a really nice place. So what might happen to you is you might say a prayer some evening and say a little prayer to your guardian angel. Say, guardian angel, bring this to Divine Mother or whomever, saint or whomever that you have a rapport with. Say, protect me and help me elevate my consciousness so I can learn unconditional love and compassion. Now, towards that end, what I've done is I made some points that people can make a vow to themselves to work on it individually, outside of any structure. And it's a civilian core. It's a civilian core. So you just raise your hand and say, I volunteer. You're not volunteer for anybody else. Volunteer just for yourself, your own decisions. You're responsible for yourself. So Civilian Corps is an interplanetary free will volunteer organization. Individuals like you serve others while building better futures. Your applied consciousness and consciousness improving actions seep directly into your matrix. You're not waiting for somebody else to do it. And then what happens is off-planet loved ones, spirit guides, or maybe a saint or something, they can infuse you with information to make your life a hell of a lot easier because you're not going to abuse the information. I'm just going to talk about 2 points. In the voluntary oath that you would take, that you're making just between you and Source, and between you and a society, and you and a government, but between you and your divine source, to demonstrate implementation of the best ethical effort of man and machine, artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and non-local consciousness. This is where we interact with off-planet beings and ultra-terrestrials and avatars. Building community. So it's not to build bombs, it's not to make money, it's to build community, okay? So you have quality of life. You know, the reason you're here, to learn to love one another, probably a good idea. And the second item that I want to emphasize at this point is Civilian Corps is designed by myself a year or so ago to demonstrate willingness and coordination with with loving higher consciousness beings on and off planet Earth, because there's a lot of them on Earth right now that are kind of like disguised loving people. You can call them kind of like Christ consciousness stuff. So don't be surprised if a macabre comes out of nowhere and you go, what is that? And then a light comes out of your chest and you go to the other side and meet someone very powerful. It clears up who you are, why you are there, and what you need to do. So, as Elena says, love is always the key. You and all your loved ones are always in my prayer. Spiritual Mag.